Time to check in with CTV tech analyst Carmi Levy. A couple of stories in the news today. Carmi, I need to start with this shocker, our first item for today on your list. Majority of social media influencers do not verify information before sharing it, according to a new study. Wow, who'd have thunk that?
I mean, I think we all suspected that. It's pretty clear that most influencers, and they really are, they are kind of like the new celebrity. This is who today's kids, Gen Zs, even younger millennials will follow in a digital space. I think we suspected that they were just basically making it all up, and now we have confirmation. UNESCO, the United Nations Scientific and Cultural Arm, they did a study across 45 countries, and it showed that 62% say they don't check the accuracy of content before they share it with their followers, which is, shocking and disappointing, especially considering how much influence these individuals have over a very large population. They're just not doing their due diligence. Very few of them are actually reading up on, if they see a post or if they see an article or a video or they hear something, they're not digging into the background to say, is this legit? Is this something I should be sharing? They're just going ahead and sharing it anyway, as if it's fine, when we know full well it isn't.
Which is why I brought this up, tongue in cheek. The problem, of course, is you assume people, there's your first mistake, who are these influencers actually have done the work. And then, to me, more often than not, it's pretty obvious that they're either not interested or for whatever have not done the work. So take everything you see, I guess, fair to say, with a large grain of salt.
Very much so. Just because somebody has a large following doesn't mean that they're qualified to share, that they're qualified to be voices of authority. And unfortunately, in the digital age, as social media has become a much larger component of our day-to-day life, we seem to think, that person has a lot of followers, therefore I can trust them. Yeah. I think this confirms to us that that's not the case. Don't believe what you see online. And in fact, when I see it coming from an influencer, my first question is, who's paying them to say that? Because in many cases, they're sponsored to say certain things, but not all of them disclose that they're being sponsored, which is a whole other question, a whole other challenge when it comes to legitimacy.
Yeah, and by the way, when someone starts it with, I have a secret that nobody wants to share with you, or this is a miracle something or other, that ought to tell you everything you need to know. All right, let me move on from that to the next story. One of the world's busiest airports testing the idea of using AI to assist in air traffic control. Oh, my?
Yeah, actually not as scary as we might think, because they're promising that they're not getting rid of human air traffic controllers. This is just to help them do their jobs better, more safely, and the long-term plan is have it in place as a backup for human air traffic controllers. They call it Amy, and it's an artificial intelligence engine, and basically what it does is it takes radar and video data that air traffic controllers are already using, and it tracks aircraft across this 3D space, and it creates what they call a holistic visualization. So imagine, instead of staring out the window, instead you stare at these giant screens, and these aircraft are displayed in them in three-dimensional space with all the information about them attached to it. So how fast are they flying? How high are they flying? Are they flying inbound or outbound? What kind of aircraft is it? What's the flight number? And so you have a much better situational awareness of what's happening, and more importantly, beneath the surface, artificial intelligence is looking at all of these aircraft, and it's identifying problems long before humans would be able to. So instead of there being a crisis that an air traffic controller has to jump on, instead it'll identify a trend. You know what? It'll tap them on the shoulder and go, in 45 seconds, these two aircraft are going to have a problem. You might want to do something about it. So it enhances safety. It reduces that sort of crisis, issue. And they've already used it on 40,000 flights so far in Heathrow. And the plan is to grow that pilot and essentially have it as a permanent backup solution in place for 2027. I can't wait for this to show up at Canadian airports. Remember, it was an Air Canada flight landing in San Francisco a couple of years ago that almost caused one of the biggest accidents in aviation history, because an air traffic controller missed the fact that they were lined up not on the runway, but on the taxiway, and there were a bunch of international flights waiting to take off there. So this technology can fix that, but it won't get rid of the humans who already do the job.
Okay. Let me move on to our next topic here, which is LinkedIn, which millions of people, right, using LinkedIn. You're suggesting that viral post on LinkedIn maybe that was AI generated. So what don't we know here?
Yeah, Wired.com, the online digital magazine, did a study, and they showed that of 54% of longer English language posts on LinkedIn, which is kind of like social media for grown-ups, you really use for professionals who want to network with other people in their industry, showed that they were created by artificial intelligence. We know that if you analyze text, you can kind of tell that it was AI generated. There are ways to check it. Ask any university professor. They use these services to make sure that kids are writing it themselves, not using AI to write it for them. And so this is a problem, because what's essentially happening is a platform that's supposed to be about legitimacy and people sharing their professional best practices and being truthful about it, are in fact not being truthful. They're using AI to generate it and flood the platform with it. We're seeing this across other social media platforms as well, but this is the first time that we've really had definitive proof that it's happening. And frankly, that number, 54%, absolutely frightening. And as if we needed another reason to not like LinkedIn, well, I think now we have it.
Okay. You still using LinkedIn?
I use it, and not because I like to, but because I'm in a business where connecting with people and making sure they know what you do is a great way to continue to get business from them. So, I'm in business for myself. This is what I do, and so it's one of those necessary evils. It kind of makes me sad that there are a lot of people online who are not sharing their own content, using AI content instead, and not telling people about it. And I think that's, keep our eyes open when we're online. Not all that you see is legitimate. In many cases, it's a machine doing the work.
Okay. Final story for today. Speaking of AI, do we call Google Maps AI? I mean, Google Maps has been around for a long, long time. And the story today is one I've heard before. Sadly, this time, apparently 3 men follow Google Maps. They're dead because the car, basically, the maps, told them to drive over an unfinished bridge. As I said, I've heard this kind of stuff before.
It happens again and again. We've heard of people driving into rivers and lakes because they followed the blue line without paying attention to what was going on outside, or they believed the GPS app, but they didn't actually do their due diligence. They didn't research the route before they left the house on their trip. And this is a tragic example. 3 people in a car in India. It was a taxi. They were driving overnight in between a couple of cities, and they came across a bridge that was out of service, but they followed the GPS anyway, and it essentially told them to drive off the bridge, and they were found in the river the next day. And so I think this is really an important reminder. We put too much trust in GPS apps, and I use Google Maps, I use Apple Maps, I use Waze. Depending on where I'm headed, I'll use different ones. And they're part of my toolkit, but also part of my toolkit, actual printed maps that I leave in my glove compartment, actual maps that I will carry with me and review before I go on a trip. The reason being is I don't always trust that the technology is aware of what's happening around us. They might not know that there's a construction zone. Certainly in Montreal, the app isn't always aware that a street has been closed or a bridge has been closed. And so you got to look at other sources and make sure that you're aware of that before you set out. Good. Otherwise, you could be next.
Good tip. Carmi, appreciate it as always. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, Aaron. Thanks so much.